Teresa, great job. It's been a pleasure to partner with you during the prep of this. And what I have to say, where's Jean-Guy? There you are. And Mark. We got a call from Jean-Guy about 6 months ago, and he said, let's do a quick preparation call for this. Shows how organized you are. And I said, okay, no problem, we'll jump on a call. And he said, could I have your slide deck ready in about 10 days' time? And that was 5 months ago. So I always say that, Mark, your people and your show is some of the most organized that we do, and it speaks to what a great event you put on. This is a subject very close to my heart. This audience is probably close to my heart. So before I start, I wonder if I could ask all the Four Seasons employees currently to stand up. Our wonderful team of spa directors. Anyone who's consulted with Four Seasons in a professional capacity, can I ask you to stand up? So, thank you so much, and I recognize all your faces. I wanted to see how much we knew about the brand that I love, and that I joined in a moment of mystery. Coming originally from London, you may have seen a talk I did with Jean-Guy a couple of years ago, but I didn't know who Four Seasons were when I left hotel school and business school back in 1990. But they frustrated the hell out of me, frankly, as a young man, because I could see this property called the Inn on the Park, and they kept winning recognition. And I said, well, who is this company? And the fact they won everything, I thought, at the time, the awards for Best Business Hotel or Best Leisure Hotel, I said, oh, that sounds like me. I want to win, and I want to work for a brand that wants to expand, but I knew nothing about Four Seasons. Kept writing to them. In fact, my mother did. At the time, I said, Mum, because she was so good at doing stuff like that for me. So she wrote the letters to Four Seasons. And then I'd wait expectantly to see whether I could work for this brand. And she said, love, I'm sorry. We regret, unfortunately, that there are no positions available with Four Seasons. So my heartbreak started, and I couldn't get in all honesty. And I ended up, with great pride, working for Disney in Paris. And my boss at the time was ex-Four Seasons. Cut a long story short, I did 3 years opening Disneyland Paris as a young manager. She left. She went back to become the hotel manager at Four Seasons London. I said, don't forget me. And she didn't. She took me back as house manager at Four Seasons London. And I always tell the story that I've told before, so forgive me. But I want you to know how long it took me to get in to work for Four Seasons. That's the reason I haven't left in 28 years. It's been exhausting. So we first did our first spa in 1986, proudly in Dallas, Texas. Ironically, we're building a new hotel in Texas. The hotel that I ended up working in a few years ago is transitioning to another brand, but we're building a brand new hotel in Highland Park in Dallas. It's really exciting. But we did start in the spa industry in 1986. We didn't do much since then, but we evolved since our roots in 1961. Slow, mature, measurable growth. A little bit like myself, if I could say that. But it's taken a while to get there, but Four Seasons are getting there slowly. Since 1961, we now have 122 global spas, 35 spas under development. Yes, that's the grey hair you see. And 3,000 Four Seasons wellness employees. 1 million treatments annually across our portfolio. And 14 Four Seasons golf courses and 16 Forbes nominations for Forbes 5-star, a partnership we're very, very proud of. That's just an aggregate of information, and it never speaks to the hard work and the passion that our spa directors, some of which are here today, and our senior spa directors pour into every one of our projects. And we start with appreciation and recognition, and our values as a brand really come from the golden rule. And I try not to stay on every line of the slide, so forgive me for emphasizing certain points. From that memorable start with Four Seasons London in 1997, I evolved. I moved around the brand, and I learned very quickly we were a family business. And if you got ahead of your station, you got bigger than the brand, they'd let you know about it, because there's no place for that in modern businesses that speak about people. You are but an employee. No matter what your job title is, it should say employee, because there shouldn't be any difference between what you do and what the technician does, or the line employee does, who makes your vision come true, or the spa directors that have to lift that vision. And I feel that's from the brand. That's not a Michael Newcombeism that people call them occasionally. That is a brand legacy from a founder who built a dream. Mr. Isidore Sharp has been our visionary and our pioneer, yet still hosts and speaks and does the first dance at the general manager's conference with his wife of 60 years and leads that tone. Be the tone, be the leader, be the emotional connect to your business is my advice. Whatever it is, make that be you. Your values have to come through the employee's behavior. Ours happens to be a golden rule: treat others as you wish to be treated yourself. Easy to say, not always easy to do, but that's the principle of the company that I'm proud to work for, because I feel it. When I've had bad days in that long career, and I've had plenty, generally, unequivocally, the company's rallied around me, and they've been there. So how's that affect my behavior? I become different from a taker to a giver. When someone calls me and says I need help, I'm predisposed to know how to move forward and embrace the situation. And with that golden rule comes a connection, and with a connection comes retention. And by driving a business that truly cares through its behavior, you hope that people don't leave, and you hope that you can grow them as fast as you can. Our leadership style is hands-on and passionately supportive. It is. You really, and I know those guys, they'll tell you, they cover the desk. They are strategic leaders, but they're hands-on, passionate. Our business starts and finishes with the guest journey, the guest experience. We can't do anything unless we get the guest right. We can't look good in a boardroom if it doesn't act as it should on the operational floor. And our guests will tell us very quickly. And they bring a new word out, which haunts me sometimes as an old operational GM and a leader. That just wasn't very Four Seasons. I said, how did that become a thing? But they know what the brand strives for, and if something isn't very Four Seasons, it just means it wasn't good enough. And it gets you standing tall as a leader and trying to put things right. You take it personally, you take the criticism to heart, but you evolve where you stand. And I think that's a behavior in product, in profit, in people. We do the same. Proximity management is an art, not a science. I once got quoted on this phrase, but I love it. Proximity management is the distance emotionally between you and your team. Oh, I know my team. I know their first name. I said, yeah, but do you really know them? Have you built loyalty with them? Well, what does that mean? That means that you have enough equity in the bank with them emotionally, that you've demonstrated that you are there for them, that you've delivered, that you've executed your promise. That is what proximity management is about. And it's about a mobile management team. It's about hands-on style that means that you pop up on the 8th floor and you thank the room attendant for doing 2 rooms more than they needed to that day. You thank the spa tech for covering a double because someone called in sick. That you make sure the recognition is consistent and from the heart. Because I've received it as a leader, it's created it in me, and I've been the carrier of that culture for some time. If you don't carry it, if you don't feel it, you can't give it, because it doesn't happen on manual. Oh, I better be good today. I better step into that operation and be supportive of my team. That's not going to work. People can see through that. It's got to come from the heart. It's got to be who you are. Otherwise, if it's not there, this industry may not be for you, because there's no other way to get it done. It's on your feet, away from the desk, carrying out a vision that you've shared, and moving forward in a way that is sympathetic to the needs of that team. I'm passionate about that piece. proximity management. If you take away anything today, please, proximity management, the ability to stay close to your people, understand what they need. Understanding our employees' goals and paths are embraced, a little bit the same, but where do they want to go? Not what they are today, what are they trying to strive for? I'm happy doing what I'm doing, but it's not what I want to do eventually. What do you want to do eventually? Let me make a note of that. Let me make sure I'm consistent in the evaluation I give you. Let me be sure that I know where your dreams are and how we can get you there. And you know what? If I can't do it, as a leader, I'm going to tell you I can't do it, because you deserve honesty. And that's another important part of retention. Support and trust are unequivocally linked. We touched on that already. Trust is that word that you earn. Can't get it overnight. You earn it. And you earn it the hard way, because you have to show behavior that builds it. Growth of a brand, industry boom, passion versus cost of living equals transition. We're at a point where, when I joined Four Seasons, we had 35 hotels. We now have 131. It's a different industry. If we lose sight of those values, we become another brand. Nothing wrong with being another brand, but it's not who we are. And we fight consistently in our meetings to stay true to our core. But the magic that comes from a slow, steady career is not as easy when you've got 12 openings next year, and there's a yacht in the build, and there's all sorts of projects that take attention away from those core principles. That is why we have transition at the moment, because we're not necessarily focused on that core pillar, or the core pillar gets stretched. Negative turnover impacts a brand's ability to recruit. That's not at a Four Seasons hotel, I hasten to add. There'll be a line out the door. But that's what a recruitment show, a trade show, can look like. A lot of empty chairs. Well, you didn't tell enough people. That could be one of the answers. Could be your brand reputation is out there, that people know that perhaps that's not an employer of choice behavior. I don't know the answers, but what I do know is a whole host of mistakes I've personally made that mean the sight of doing a recruitment day that looks like that is something that I'd avoid at all cost. So, going off script, as I love to, I was in Nassau, Bahamas, yes, please, last week with the family. And true story, I was having dinner in the restaurant. The hotel manager came up and he goes, "Michael, do you remember me?" And sorry if I've done this with you today. I always say, "Of course I do." I'm trying to look at your badge and say, "Oh." But anyway, I did it last week. I was busted a little bit. He said, "I work for you in Hampshire." And then my face goes from smiling to sort of a little bit of dread. Oh my God, what was I? What sort of leader was I in Hampshire? Was I okay? And he said, "You came down to a recruitment show in Barcelona." And I said, "I remember that." "Yes." He said, "Do you remember sitting with me?" I said, "Now we're getting to territory. What happened?" He said, "I missed your appointment. And you were going to the airport the next day. And I begged my professor to give me a chance to interview with you because you're about to leave town. I rushed in the next day. We sat in the lobby of the hotel. You were about to go. And you gave me the time and wisdom that I never forget." I joined Four Seasons Hampshire as a server. Well, his name is Jose Ortiz. I was so proud to see him as Director of Operations 18 years later at Four Seasons Nassau, Bahama, based on a random meeting of giving someone 1 second that he's now running one of our hotels. Isn't that great? On that same trip, trying to staff up Four Seasons Hampshire in my early days, we did have a recruitment day like that. So it wasn't about not making mistakes. And I recognized the effort that I put into that trip. I learned things, and I said, I'll never do that again. The prep work on recruitment trips, the level of detail I needed in market, the questions I should have done led to one of those days looking like that. So it's not without failure. I always tell people around me, failure is so important. Doing things like that to say, I won't do that again. But what I will do is do something along the same passion lines, but with a different net result. Employer culture 2.0, informed, involved, and inspired. When we used to write to get jobs, am I okay for time? Because I can talk quite a bit. You okay? Okay, thank you. When I used to write to get jobs, that whole process took, God, it could take months to get a response back from certain employers, right? It was a hardwired letter, or go through mail. It's a very different communication style now. If you want to reach out to the CEO or COO of Four Seasons, you just go online and you ping him on Instagram. Christian Clerk, our COO who just left us, an amazing amount of followers. You can DM him, slide into his DMs. You're in touch with the leadership of all organizations. My point is, you better be quick and you better be nimble, because if you're slow in response, that represents your business. You better find ways to get back to candidates quickly, quicker than they anticipate, because if you don't, someone else is going to beat you to it. And so from being an organization that was perhaps slow, and I'll tell you why we're slow in a minute, hold that thought, this constant communication and communication to our employees is critical. Before I look at that piece, Four Seasons has a 5-step interview process. It can be long, it can be laborious, but we all know what we're looking for. Because worse than not having someone is having someone who's not successful with us. And having someone who we put through pain to try and conform to a brand or an opportunity they probably shouldn't be with. So we do put a lot of time to ask questions about their leadership style, about their heart, about their experience, but we put a lot of focus in that. So we are sometimes criticized for being a little bit slow, but it's with good intention that we want to make sure whoever we retain and we hire, we can keep. Coming from an opportunity lens on the retention, constant communication of strategy and path, interactive leadership and self-driven teams are the most dynamic. Top-down management as a self-driven entrepreneur of your business, if you have a team, can be a weakness. Giving people the chance to have equity in a decision and the decision-making progress is fundamentally important. Sharing the burden of leadership is so, so important. And I really believe in that. The power of the teams, the power of the people, making sure that you are but one employee of a large brand is the criticality to break down your office of leadership, but also the humility of the way you lead. And I think that is now more than ever is the expectation of 2.0. We also test what we do. We do opinion surveys annually on our employee base. And one of the key questions that comes up is communication and recognition. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them and tell them what you just told them are the 3 factors that have been around in communication forever. It is no different today to get messaging out than really making sure that you're communicating critically to every part of your plan to your employee base. Trust comes from that openness. Retention comes from the ability to share goals, and keeping your talent with you as part of that recognition process is fundamentally important. Leadership, authenticity starts with the heart. Being the real you within our brand is what creates the trust that builds and leads the recognition that keeps the retention. Organic recruitment versus panic buying. We're here to talk about retention. Well, I've talked about that enough, but how do we get the people on board? Well, it's a strategy. But I'm not telling you, I'm not in this show today talking to the peers and my colleagues and saying, how are we going to staff these incredible amount of opportunities, not just with Four Seasons, www.fourseasons.com/careers, if you'd just like to hit me up on that. No. Not how we're going to staff Four Seasons of the future, but the wellness boom, the pressure on our industry is incredibly intense. And I was so delighted to hear Teresa talk about Academy. I feel the industry should, all of us should put a certain amount of our revenue to one side and put it into academies in every location that we all benefit from. Because without people, without the development of talent tomorrow, we are going to struggle. It doesn't matter how good your retention is, we have to think of tomorrow. I think with the boom of this industry, we have to get better at developing the talent to come into this. I agree with Teresa to a certain degree on the stigma part, but we pay well. Certain operators will pay well and share. So I really think that we have to do a better job of developing tomorrow's talent. Don't fish in the ocean for steak. That means know what you're looking for, understand the job profile and job description of what fits your business, and make sure when you go down to certain markets, you remember the last image of the empty chairs? That was me, because I was fishing with the wrong bait in the wrong market. And you have to calculate yourself strategically what's right for your business. It is a science. You have to understand, if you don't break down the compensation plan, if you don't understand where the individuals are who are most likely to jump from a current employer across, or that you're heading up the colleges or the schools, then the chances are you will get that empty recruitment hall as I experienced early on. So understanding what's right, where you go, where you advertise, where you push, where you go and speak, where you get your brand out there is critical to your success. There is not 100% solution. It's about doing 1% at a talk today, doing 1% at a talk next week. It's about your online campaign and making sure that everything lines up together for an overarching, comprehensive strategy. We talked about 4 Seasons 5-step interview protocol. The first 90 days, once you've landed that candidate, is critical. We know on paper why it's critical, but if your 5-step interview process has been done right, you're really just onboarding the culture. If your 5-step, for us, not preaching that you should do that, but if you've hired the right candidate, that should be the time that you just endorse this partnership and relationship. It shouldn't be a test in any way. In fact, it's a way the brand, the business, your business shows why they made the decision to join you. There's been a power shift. Used to be the employee beckons. You remember? 4 Seasons didn't want to take me. That's not the case. The employee chooses. The employee will line up the values you offer versus the next offer and the next offer. And it's a very, very competitive set. Be yourself, be authentic, build out your job descriptions, know where to fish, and then carry it through with enthusiasm, but be genuine and committed to the path. I know that I talk too much, but hopefully you understand that success comes from passion. Passion breeds strategy. Strategy brings loyalty, trust, and appreciation. I appreciate all of you today. I know this is a topic dear to everyone's heart, and I thank you for your time. Jean-Guy, thank you very much for inviting me back. And Mark, thank you so much.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's really lovely to be here today with you all, and thank you to Mark and to Jean-Guy for inviting me to speak. I heard some incredible, we had some incredible sessions this morning, which I really enjoyed, and I'm hoping that this is a little bit different, the angle I'm coming from here as well, and I'll explain why as I go through. But just to explain a bit more about me and my role, I've worked at Dorchester Collection now for 6 years. My role is Global Head of Spa and Wellness. I've been doing that role for nearly 2 years now. It's a role that's split into 3 different areas. So I oversee wellness initiatives across the hotels, wellness in our spas, and wellness for people. And that's the one I'm going to focus in on today, the wellness of our people, because it's something that I'm hugely passionate about. And I've got a few slides prepared to show you what we're doing at Dorchester Collection to retain our talent, because we've heard this morning, and we heard on the session just before I came up here, that retaining talent and staffing is a big challenge for all of us. Okay, so Dorchester Collection, who are we? So we've got 10 hotels. We're really lucky. It's quite a small group, which means that I do get to go to all the properties and spend time with people, and I know the teams really well. We've got 3 in the UK, we've got 2 in Paris, we've got 2 in Italy, we've got 2 in LA, and we have just opened Dubai. So Dubai has just opened. We're very lucky to have our own academy, and the information I'm going to be sharing with you shortly is going to highlight what that academy has been doing to help with retention. So we know what our key people challenges are. I don't think there's anything on there that hasn't already been discussed today. The challenges that we've got and the people challenge we have, particularly within spa and wellness. I mean, the one that infuriates me the most is the stigma. We heard Jessica earlier this morning. She's a board member of the UK Spa Association. They do several campaigns, Work for Wellness being one of them. And in my time, when I was on the board, we spent a lot of time going out to visit schools, to attend careers fairs and visit our colleges. And unfortunately, in the UK, there is still a stigma around people being encouraged to come into our industry. So I do think out of all of these, that's the one I feel that we need to get out there collectively as a big voice all together and actually try and do something to change that, because we all know it's amazing. We all know that we've had amazing careers. We love what we do. We also know that it's a real opportunity for people to come in at a base level and progress to be really senior people. So I just wish we could do more to bring that to the wider people. So at Dorchester Collection, we are guided by our We Care philosophy. So We Care is at the centre of everything we do. It's demonstrated in all our thoughts and actions, and a real sense of community and belonging. We are guided by our vision, so we're treasured by guests, cherished by employees, and celebrated worldwide. And our values are at the centre of everything we do, like every interaction we have with guests, every decision we make sure they incorporate our values. The one I'm going to focus on today in our vision is cherished by employees, because this is where I feel Dorchester Collection, we've really tried to look at this, and we've really tried to make a difference here in how we look after our employees and how we get to know them and how we can understand them on a deeper level. So going back to talent and attraction, like there's so many different ways now that people can come into the industry, but we are still struggling for staff, so we do need to be flexible and look at different pathways of coming through. I mean, Diane Hay isn't in the room today, but for those of you who know her, she's championing apprenticeships out there, and it's something that Dorchester Collection, we did go on that journey with her last year. It's working really well. It's a really good way to be bringing talent in from the base level. We're just about to take our second cohort on in April. Really pleased with how that's working. But what I want to focus on is the retention. So we all know how timely it is. You know, we spend so much time and effort trying to recruit and bring in the right people. And at Dorchester Collection, I do feel now that with our recruitment process, we have become quite robust with our protocols, because it's so important. We've all been there, and you've taken people on because you're desperate or you need to fill a gap. And I really believe that for retention to start, that's where it starts, by recruiting the right people in the first place, so holding your nerve, going with it, and waiting for the right people to come along. Culture is everything. We heard that this morning from the panels up here, that if you've got the right culture, you're going to be successful. So culture is so embedded into everything that we're trying to do, our We Care culture. We do have a lot of training and progression. The average employee, just on standardised courses, spends around 30 hours a year training at Dorchester Collection, and that's just going through our regular courses that we offer for all employees. That doesn't then incorporate the additional training that we do on top of that when we're developing leadership and talent to bring through that pipeline. Lead with wellness as a lifestyle. Now, this is something I'm hugely passionate about, and you'll remember before that I was saying that my role actually is split across 3 areas. Well, this I feel hugely passionate about. I work with our HR teams, and I work with the DC Academy on this, on how we can embrace and bring wellness in as a lifestyle. We all do. I mean, hearing some of the initiatives that everybody's doing in here for their staff and how we look after them this morning was amazing, and I all know you're doing amazing things. I mean, Jessica, what you're doing up at Lucknam is incredible. We are looking to take that a little step further now, because what we have found is when we've been spending time promoting wellness and in various initiatives across our property, is that we were actually surprised that that a lot of employees didn't really fully understand why they were doing it. So what we're doing now is we're actually breaking down the pillars of wellness into the different areas. So we're looking at sleep, we're looking at nutrition, movement, all the different pillars of wellness, and we're looking at how we can turn this into an education, so that when our employees come on board with us and they go through their engage with the company process, we will be, as part of that, be teaching them how to look after their wellness, and we'll be consulting with experts on that to be able to create these courses. We cannot assume they know. I've been quite surprised about how little people know about decisions they're making every day affect their overall wellness. And when you're, particularly in the spa and wellness industry, you have to be well yourself to be able to provide wellness. So you can't pour from an empty cup and all of that. So we're looking at designing these courses now with experts to teach people how important it is and how easy it is, like just by making little tweaks and changes to daily life, how they can bring that into their environment, and understanding your employee emotional needs and engagement. And that's what I'm going to speak to you about now. Now, employee emotional needs was a course that we designed at Dorchester Collection, primarily to drive engagement, because we know if a team member's engaged, they're going to be more motivated to work. The background to this derived from our employee satisfaction survey. We call it Your View, and it has engagement drivers in it, driven by our visions and our values of the company. And we want to push the boundaries continuously and to understand what our people need to thrive and to understand the emotional aspects of employee engagement. So what are our employee emotional needs? Well, we all know that our people are our greatest assets. Engagement is an emotional connection that an employee feels towards their company. So you want your engagement to be high, you want them to want to come to work, and you want them to feel they want to do their best when you're there. And then from the engagement, that is where the motivation comes from. So to design this course, we did the research, we looked at our ESS, we looked at our engagement scores, we looked at what our people were telling us. We also looked at exit interviews, feedback, and just general observations, and their personal development plans. We took all that into consideration. We held targeted workshops, we consulted with brand experts, and we also consulted with experts in the field. So we went to a university professor and we got his input. We spoke to psychologists and we worked with CIPD experts. So, how did we do this? So, to understand the journey that we went on, we did the research. We then identified out of this 9 emotional needs. Now, there are loads more, I'm sure, but we identified 9 emotional needs that we feel at Dorchester Collection that most people could fit into those categories. So, what do we mean by this? A state or condition that is required for us to experience fulfilment and a positive emotion. And what does this mean for Dorchester's Collection? So why did we do it? Primarily, we did this to be able to give our leaders, our leadership team, our middle managers, a toolkit, the framework to be able to manage and understand employee emotions. And also the ongoing effort to reflect our We Care culture. So these are the ones that we identified. And particularly, you know, we all know that we need to make time for conversations, we need to learn to build rapport with our teams. We took it a step further, and with our training, and I actually did this course, I did it over a year ago, and it was really interesting how the course was delivered by the Dorchester Collection Academy, and how we're taught to ask the curious questions that we need, to listen to understand, to listen with context, and to listen for the clues, and they're all the unsaid things that people say. So there's the 9 emotional needs that we feel at Dorchester Collection. Most of our staff will fit into those categories. So take significance, for example. With significance, we know that people, if they have that as their emotional need driver, we know that they want to be seen, heard, and valued. Pride, people want to work, be proud of what they do and work with talented teams. Driven, motivation, and they want like ongoing encouragement. They want to feel empowered, they want to feel trusted. Impact, they want to do meaningful and purposeful things. Variety, to be able to understand like diverse and exciting opportunities within the companies. And to care, like to treat everybody with the care and empathy. So by investing in this, what we were hoping to achieve, and I'm going to share some statistics with you in a moment, what we were hoping to achieve was enhanced self-awareness. We wanted to build that engagement and our loyalty to our brand, boost creativity and innovation, optimal performance, but overall creating really engaged employees that are motivated to look after our guests. So, I said I'd share some statistics with you. So we rolled this out at the beginning of 2023. At the end of the year, our employee satisfaction survey, we came in the top 5% for employee engagement against the companies we benchmark ourselves against. Last year, we saw a reduced turnover. As a collection, our turnover is 19%. We're quite proud of that because it's gone down from the year before. We had a record number of promotions within the department because people were rewarded and recognised, because our talent were able to recognise further talent coming through. And needless to say, our guest engagement score was phenomenal. Okay, thank you very much.
Before I start, does anybody like to ask any questions of our esteemed panel? Whilst you're thinking, Teresa, how good is the Worcester at the diversity angle? What are you doing to include more people, perhaps, that aren't so able-bodied or of colour and different? Have you got the
I'm
mic?
mic'd up still. So we do have a diversity champion in the business, Jane Grammer. She champions this for us. And we do look to, we're very open to whoever we bring into the business. We do include everybody. It's an inclusive company. It's part of our We Care culture and our values. And it is a big focus for us as a company to make sure that we are recruiting people of all, diversities and including everybody.
And Michael, what would you say to that question?
The same thing. Communities that aren't fully represented represents a business that isn't optimizing its own performance. So we, of course, hold ourselves accountable to targets. To bring underrepresented groups through, you have to champion that underrepresented group, and you have to give them priority. And you can't let the majority say, hey, why are you showing privilege there? You have to be able to grow any unrepresented group unequally at first to bring representation back. And we have committees for everything. And really proud of our Women in Leadership passionate group in Four Seasons and how successful that's been. Same for diversity, same for colour, same for minorities. Tolerance, support, building a brand that makes people feel safe is the key.
Thank you. Michael, you made quite a strong statement. I don't know how people... Whenever I've needed it, the company has always been there for you. That's a big statement. I don't believe you. Can you elaborate some examples?
Well, yes, I can. I mean, you've got to go back to a family business. And, rather than talking about myself, which I'll give you, I'm not pulling on emotional strings here, but I've seen recently, we lost a colleague in his 50s who was developed a very rare form of brain cancer. Right from every senior leadership trying to get the best medical help we could get to him. The founder, Izzy Sharp, flew into Los Angeles to meet him and his family. And even I couldn't believe he did that, but he did it from the heart. And he's, at the time, 2 years ago, 89 years old. And that shows that he's no longer running the majority of the business, but that culture from the top shows how we behave in crisis. And I've been on the benefiting end of that sort of behavior through a divorce or through a medical issue I've had, that it's overwhelming that people truly care. And I've experienced it. And I think it is a power of a brand. And is it magic? No. Is it worked out? Yes. But is it from a founder who operates like that? That's really it. When we were a young company doing GM meetings, he used to break bread with us in his house. The general manager meeting, when there were 40 of us, was in his house. And that happened until we got too big. That was the only reason it's not in his house, is because we got too big. So I go back to family values, and my behavior's changed because of that, but also it has with my kids to a certain degree. And when there's someone who influences you to that degree, you try and operate in that manner. So, yes.
Thank you. That's a lovely answer. Teresa, you have your daily life programme. What do you say to somebody like me who says, none of your business? or do you get pushback? I ask it in a nicer way. Do you get pushback and saying, hold on, you're intruding. It's what I do outside, and it's not your business. What do you say to that? From
the employee perspective,
yes.
Are we talking about? I mean, I haven't had that pushback, actually, to be honest.
Not
anything regular. Oh, I hope not. I think it goes back to, what Michael was saying earlier as well. It's being on the floor and it's building the relationships with those team. And it's something that I've always done. I know who my team are personally, and I take the time to get to know them. You know the people that don't want to share as much, and if they don't want to share as much, you wouldn't probe as much. But then you know the people where that really means something to them, and they really crave that connection, and they really want you to be involved. And then you're able to provide more support there. But as a company, it's something that we do a lot. We're managers that are on the floor, and we're around our team all the time, and we get to know them. And of course, you wouldn't pry, but I would hope that everybody, feels that we care culture. It's part of our values, it's part of our vision, it's who we are, and feel safe enough to come forward if they did have something they did want to share with us.
Thank you. How have you become, I'll ask back to Michael, how has Four Seasons become more flexible in their offering to employees' needs in terms of hours or days worked, or is that on a regional basis or corporate basis? How have you made changes there?
I think this pandemic actually reset the clock in many ways, and there's a number of initiatives. First of all, hotel operations are hands-on. The remote work that I can do when I don't travel is a unique thing for a corporate office, and I take it as a blessing. But as a GM, I was in the office every day during COVID at an open hotel, and what our employees went through in an on, off again crisis management situation was incredible. And I think what we've tried to do since then is continue the path of recognition, continue the path of career growth, ensure compensation is well thought out, and the benefits with Four Seasons that are ongoing complimentary stays and discounted food and beverage that on the surface they may not sound, well, maybe they do sound great, but they really are part of our culture, that we want people to go into other properties, experience them, feel like a guest, feel like a champion for a moment. And I tell you something, Mark, that is a truism. When our employees stay in a Four Seasons, they don't get shuffled away into the corner. We try and make sure the opposite number welcomes them and makes them feel like a champion of that guest stay and not embarrassed that maybe they don't belong in this luxury hotel. We all extend that, hey, welcome to LA or welcome to London. So great to have you with us. Goes back to culture and carrying it through.
I'll ask, as Teresa, you run not a small business, but a smaller business. How have you made changes on the flexibility front?
Well, we have to look at everything now. It's completely changed. It was changing anyway before COVID, but since COVID it has changed a lot more. I mean, everybody's welcome. It is that inclusivity piece. We don't discriminate against anybody. We look to be flexible. We believe that everybody's got something to bring to the table, and if they're passionate and want to work for us, we will find a way of working with them. And we will create that flexibility within our tables. We've looked at different schedules for the therapists because we know how important that is, that they're getting their weekends and their time with their loved ones. But across the whole business, it's something, our chefs are trialling their 4-day week at the moment, and that's going really well. And we try to move and go with the times, and it's more about bringing the right people in that fit in and are part of your culture rather than trying to fit in with like a traditional roster.
Thank you. Jean-Guy, I believe you have there's questions.
We do. We have one from Susan Holbrook, Marriott.
Thanks, Jean-Guy. Hi, Michael. Hi, Teresa. Michael, I have a question for you. I really like here we go. We're on the earphones and Zoom.
No, that's not true.
No, we're absolutely not. I love the comment that you made about fishing in the ocean for steak. So when you're recruiting, where do you go fishing? Where is the main area you would look for spa leaders or employees?
I can't possibly share that with you. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I think it goes back to a digital meets in-person campaign. We give regional and departmental responsibility to recruitment, but there is no. We want experience in the people who join us, but not always, and I'm sure you agree with that. When you're talking about technicians, of course, there's certification. But the closer you can get to source, to good schools, good colleges, good trade schools, open up that partnership, knowing that that individual, somewhere when they were 13, 14, or 15, has elected to do a trade similar to what you're looking for, there's a buy-off. Has that person joined a certification for the trade that you're looking for. I'm a great believer in that. And when in an operation role, I used to say, well, that's interesting. You say you've always wanted to be in the spa business, but I note when you left college, you joined a bank. So I want consistency. It doesn't mean people can't change their career, but the closer you can get to source, the more talks you do at hotel schools, at beauty colleges, at trade schools, I feel we have to almost grow our own. And that's really what I'm saying. Find individuals that you can shape that will be successful. I think that's half the battle at the moment. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ha. I'm from Vietnam. I'm the CEO and founder of Sena Wellness Retreat. I have a question for both of you. What would be your suggestion for recruiting staff in an area where hospitality is not the major industry? And what would you suggest for the training process?
Teresa, that's a good one for you.
Sorry, you've actually thrown me now. Looking for talent. I mean, for us, it's our academy that we're looking to develop, and Michael touched on that point earlier, that we believe that, you know, there is a shortage out there, and when you're looking to bring in new talent and develop it to how, you know, to be part of your culture, that's something we're significantly investing in now, and we're going to be looking to develop that more in the future. Baseline talent, we're just working in lots of different ways. We're doing a lot of work with apprenticeships at the moment, because there's a lot of younger talent out there coming into the industry now, and working with really good apprenticeship providers to bring them in at that level as well and incorporate them into our businesses. So from a base level, that's where we're looking. We're going out to academies and apprenticeships, and we're looking at growing our own team.
The same question. If I had a magic wand and we're opening in a new location, and I felt perhaps the experience or the trades weren't specific to our needs, I would like to think that we were visionary and organized enough to go in early and recruit from schools in that location. Take talent into other Four Seasons hotels, develop them, train them with an understanding that once they're experienced and the property opens, for example, that we would then take a team back, which was a core team, to open some of our properties with the principles of Four Seasons. That happens. It doesn't perhaps happen as much as it should, but it definitely has happened. Now, if you're in Vietnam, the culture of hospitality, in my humble opinion, is remarkable. So I'm sure you're not talking about that location. But if it was a location, I would strive to do that. If it's an existing business, different problem. It's about training skill sets. If it's a new business, I would try and get in early. Typically, the recruitment manager starts in a new business with us or you, whether you have a dedicated recruitment manager or philosophy. They tend to start 6 months out. I would suggest at the moment, if I was opening a new business, you might start recruitment almost when the general manager starts. You normally start the director of sales early. Given the climate at the moment, you might be bold and say, hey, I'm going to start recruitment super early. I think that's the challenge that we have, but we have to go about it differently. You can't do the same stuff that we used to do because it's a different market. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I wonder, Becky, Michael, you're here? No. Lumsden? Just left? Yeah. Okay. Because you mentioned grow your own, and that's what Pure Spa and Beauty is going to do. They have 23 locations, working to 30 this year. Just opened 2 on one day in February, one in Chelsea, Harbour Club, and they are starting their academy. They want to recruit and train.
So, Teresa, how's that? You know, you've started your own academy. When was that?
So the academy started 10 years ago, actually.
Oh, quite some time.
It's been around for a while. It's just developed more and more and more and more.
And there will be other, maybe the ladies from the people from Vietnam, or there'll be other people thinking about doing the same. What are the pitfalls? What advice would you give of anybody looking to do the same?
I need to think about that one, actually, because I don't actually run the academy. I just benefit from a lot of the training courses.
So a bit of
I mean, I think that, it's so tough out there in the competition, you know, like Michael was saying, we're all looking for the same talent. And I think that for us, And the way it works for us at Dorchester Collection is it helps us to build on our culture and our values and our visions, and actually take those courses to develop people further. So even if people come in at a really base level, we're able to provide all the training and encouragement they need to be able to develop further.
I've been told by the Frenchman that we've run out of time, but but I will abuse my position to ask my favourite question. Michael, with regard, and Teresa, with regard to team and recruitment, if you go back, where would you have, what mistake, where would you have done something different? You've hinted that earlier, but what would you do differently that you, particularly in your younger self, that you've learnt from?
Go back, that's a true story, having that image of the recruitment hall. I've rushed into markets. I didn't get the right compensation plan. I wasn't organised to answer specific questions. I had certain confidence in the brand that felt we could perhaps rock into town and there'd be a lineup of candidates, which is not doing the process justice. I think you should always go in with the mindset that we would be privileged for this individual to join us, not the other way around. Brands can get ahead of themselves in terms of stature, and they can be overarching, and the employees can feel that it's a miracle to work for them. It shouldn't be like that. It's really a people-driven industry. We should be honoured that people have chosen us. And I would always work to that mantra. And when there's a vacancy with us or someone leaves, it actually hurts me. Even though they've gone for bigger roles, I still take it personally, and I think that healthy feeling when someone says, Michael, we're leaving, a spa team, I'm like, ouch, that hurts. I think that's okay to let it hurt you a little bit.
Good answer, thank you. Teresa, do you want to?
I think difficult to follow that. No, I agree with everything Michael said, but yeah, I think it goes back to mistakes I've made, like sometimes, particularly early on in my career, taking people and just trying to make it work, and sometimes then you lose your values and your culture and your vision a little bit as well. So, the five-step process that Michael was referring to, I think it's all about finding people who want to come and work for you, and have the same visions and values as you as well.
And also having the confidence in yourself to stick with your values.
It is, yeah. It is difficult out there at the moment, and in all of our locations we are short of talent, and it does put a lot of pressure on the team, but it is so important for the team that you find the right people to work with them. They're working so hard, and it's adding to that, it's adding to the family, and people that are going to come along and live those values with the team.
Thank you. Teresa O'Farrell. Michael, thank you. Michael Newcombe,
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much.